Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this presentation about open educational resources, ownership, authorship, and power. My name is Nicholas Simon. I'm an associate professor of sociology at Eastern Connecticut State University. This work, it's a collaborative work with Amish Lutris from Capital Community College in Hartford. The main idea guiding this presentation is extremely simple. In every society exists a system of inequality. The system of inequality is composed of different aspects, some sexism, racism, classism, but to understand sexism, classism, or racism, we need to understand them in their relationship with each other using intersectionality. And when a society decreases one form of inequality, it increases another form. So open educational resources, by putting material in the public domain or by releasing intellectual property, free us from a form of inequality, free us from ownership. For Rousseau, in A Discourse on Inequality, ownership is responsible for many problems in our society. But it's not just ownership, but the power associated with ownership. Max Weber defined power as the chance of a person or a group to enforce their own will, even against the resistance of others involved. So OER liberate us from the power of ownership. So the research question of this presentation is when the power of ownership disappears, what then happens to the power of authorship? Our thesis statement is that the power of authorship increases and by extension compromise the liberating effect of open educational resources. To fully understand the power of authorship, we cannot use the definition of Max Weber. We need to use the definition of Michel Foucault. For Foucault, power is everywhere and comes from everywhere. Power produces realities. For Weber, a group or an individual force over, it's the power of coercion. For Foucault, power is based on ideas or truth that individuals internalize. These ideas or truth encourage, push people to act, push people to think, push people to perform in a certain way, and to think it is normal to think, to act, to perform that way. In What is an Author? Foucault explained that you have many discourses, but only some identify the author of the discourse. So for Foucault, you have discourses in which the author is recognized and discourses in which the author is not recognized. And here you have this dynamic give a power, give a status, give an authority to the author of the discourse. Foucault also explained that the production of discourse is at arm's control, selected, organized, and redistributed according to a certain number of procedures. The discourse is connected to a specific form of organization, which is a form of authority, a form of power, and by extension, the discourse. So the author of the discourse is legitimized by this authority. And you have a transfer of power, a transfer of authority to the author. Finally, Foucault explained that some founders of discursivity, like Marx, like Freud, have established an endless possibility of discourses. So authors refer to them to develop their own thought, like I'm doing in this presentation by referring to Foucault, to Rousseau, to Max Weber. By doing so, we authors benefit from profit sharing, an expression used by Pierre Bourdieu to explain how referring to a founder of discursivity legitimate the idea of the author and give her or him a form of authority, a form of power. So to frame the power of authorship, I use Idle-type. We use Idle-type, the tool created by Max Weber. Idle-types simplify complex realities and help researchers to develop pure intellectual construct to classify, compare, and contrast. So we created 5 idle types with 3 different types, 3 levels, sorry, 5 idle types, 3 levels from the most amount of power to the least amount of power. And the level 1 is the most amount of power. You have the hierarchical authority of authorship, which is equivalent to commercial publishing material. Authors are recognized on their individual contribution to the manuscript. You have first author, second author, third author, which reinforce the power of the individualistic superstructure. You have also the corporate authority of authorship. It's when a company put its name in the place of the author and reinforce the power of corporation. The second level, it's when author names is or are presented in alphabetic order. So the equitable authority of authorship defines clearly the responsibilities, tasks, works of each author. It focuses on the process. You also have the equal authority of authorship, in which the author don't explain what the works they did. It implies that the final product is the result of a collaboration, regardless of the quantity of work provided by each author, and it focuses on the product. The third level, it's when the name of the author or authors are absent. Think about Wikipedia, for example. It's the disappearance of the author, and by extension, the disappearance of the authority of authorship. Now, if life was as simple as an idle type, but it's not the case. So here we would like to express 2 ideas. First, with open educational resources, authorship is sometimes more difficult to identify due to revise and remix. So now let's imagine that we were including all the authors who participate in creating a text, creating open educational resources. How many people need to be included? Who are the author? Are the author only the person who create the text, create the knowledge, or should we also include the reviewer? Should we also include the individual who created the photography? Think about a reference page. Would we accept that a reference had 50 names at its author? The second idea, it's if imagine that we live in the perfect world possible and every OER author decides to become anonymous. What kind of inequality will increase? What kind of power will increase? The idea behind this presentation is when a power decrease, another power increase. So, in conclusion, every time we use OER, or every time we retain, we reuse, we revise, we remix, we redistribute OER, let's be conscious of the power dynamic of open educational resources, especially the hidden forms of power. Here we mention authorship because I think that many of us didn't think of the power of authorship. So what are the other hidden forms of power in open educational resources that we ignore? Thank you for watching. Please do not hesitate to contact me at simon@easterncity.edu. I wish you a wonderful conference. And if you were interested by this author, that's the reference list. Thank you.